viewers, happy Friday. Welcome to this week's live. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I'm excited to be here today to share 3 projects using these meant to be dies and specific hexagon portion of these dies. So these dies can actually be found in the scrapbooking brochure, so the January to April Stampin' Up! Scrapbooking brochure, but I have also linked them along with all of the supplies in the description below. All right, so let me share a little peek at the projects that I'm going to share with you today. So we're going to do this one, we're going to do a little shaker card, and we're going to do a little gift box. All right, okay, so let me just clear off my space here, set my projects aside, and we'll jump right in. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Okay, let's see, my screen finally caught up. Let's see what the lighting is like. Let's see if this is any better. I don't know, is that too much? I think that's okay. All right, we'll stick with that. All right, so these dies, I want to point out, now there is a stamp set that coordinates with it. It's called the Meant to Be stamp set. It's got some little bees in it and some other things, but I did not get the stamp set. I actually just got the dies because I love hexagons. Love hexagons. And these dies, I want to point out, when you die cut them, they actually cut the frame and the inside layer. They don't emboss. This was just embossed separately. So when you choose whatever size die you want to cut, so this one I think was done with this 3rd largest. So when you cut it, you get this frame, and then you also get a solid inside piece. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. So you'll end up with, you can use these together or you can use them separately. So I'm going to share how you can combine them, and then I've got lots of these left over, so I'm going to come up with some ideas on how to use some these frames as well. Okay, all right, so let's see here. Let's set this here, pull out our pieces. Okay, so some of the things that I've done ahead of time is I've gone ahead and that 3rd largest hexagon die, I die cut that from some crumb cake cardstock, and then I embossed it using the exposed brick embossing folder. Okay, and then I also die cut that same size die from 2 pieces of white, and I'm just using the frames on those, so I'm not using the inside pieces. Okay, so I've got 3 frames that are the same size and then 1 inside piece. And then I've got some scraps of white for some stamping. Now, as far as the stamp sets that we're using, because I chose to focus on the dies, it's just some kind of generic hexagon dies. You don't have to have these specific ones in order to recreate these project ideas. You can use any hexagon dies. If we're using the frames and you don't have these ones where it doesn't cut out a frame for you, you can actually just, if your dies are nesting, then just cut 2 sizes that are, like, just cut both of these at the same time, and then you'll get a frame around it. Okay. All right, so because I'm not using the stamp set that coordinates with this die set, I just chose several different stamp sets from my collection to work with. So on this first project, we're going to use, for the books, I am a big reader, so I was very excited when I saw this stamp set. I have a book journal that I love to work in, and I've used some of these stamps in there. I really love to read. And so it's kind of fun if you've got friends that like to read. Maybe you want to create a birthday card that has a book theme to it. You could even include like a little gift certificate or gift card for a bookstore. So it's a really cute set. And then I am also using the Elements of Text stamp set. So if you've been following me for a little while, you know that I love stamp sets like this, where you can stamp something in the background just to add a little texture to the background of your projects. So this is a great one. This is an online exclusive project or product. This is actually a bundle that you can get from the mini catalog. Now I want to point out that the dies for this stamp set, there's no dies that cut out these pieces. They're kind of like complementary dies rather than coordinating dies. So I do want to point that out. Okay, all right. let's go ahead and start stamping. So on this white piece, I'm going to stamp with Memento ink because I'm going to color in with using my Stampin' Blends. If you have a preference to what you use to color in your images, then you just might want to switch out your ink. So Memento ink works best with alcohol markers. So I've got my stack of books, and then there's these cute little glasses, tiny little glasses that I'm going to stamp on the top of the book stack. Look at that, look how cute that is. And then the books that are meant to go on a bookshelf, so standing up, we're going to stamp those there. Okay, while we've got our black ink out, we're going to bring this piece in and we're going to stamp our greeting. So I am going to use this one's for the books. And we're going to stamp that just on a scrap piece of white. Getting a little bit of glare here. Hopefully this is straight. Good morning everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. All right. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we are also going to bring in those texture stamps and some crumb cake ink, and we're going to stamp on our card base. So I'm going to position this so I kind of have an idea of where I want to stamp. I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of paper, and because I want to stamp off, I'm going to take this texture stamp. I want to make sure that I've got the words going the right way. Not that you can really read too many of them. Ink it up with crumb cake. Stamp off. And then I'll move that out of the way, and I'm going to stamp once up here. Ink it again. Stamp it again down here. And then we're going to use one of the splatter images from that same stamp set. This time we're not going to stamp off. Stamp one there. I'm going to rotate it around, stamp another one there, and I think I'm going to do another one right here. Okay, so now I've got my background. So you can see that that adds just a little bit of texture rather than just having a simple white card base. Set this aside. Okay, and grab my bone folder here, and I'll need my scissors. So I'm using a thick white card base, and we're going to adhere this piece first. And this is going to go in the center of our card front. So we're doing a landscape card. And then we're going to take one of these frames. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. This is where that fine tip nozzle on this glue bottle comes in really handy. This is pretty fine. And we're going to line this up with the edge of our hexagon here. So that should fit in there nice and snugly. And then we're going to take the other white one, add some glue, and then we're going to offset it. So the pointed bit is going to go in the center of the straight edge for each one of these. You saw I only put adhesive kind of where, like in the center of the straight edge, because that's where it's going to be touching the layers. Whereas here it's just kind of sitting above because we've already got a layer of cardstock on there. Okay, isn't that pretty? It kind of frames that nicely. So this piece we're not going to end up using. So now we're going to set this aside. We're going to bring these in and we're going to start coloring. And I am going to use colors that will soon be retiring. So our 2023-2025 in colors, which include Pebbled Path, Wild Wheat, Copper Clay, Boho Blue, and Moody Mauve, those colors will soon be retiring. And I love these colors, the muted colors in this that year's collection. I absolutely love them. And then I'm throwing in some ivory as well to color the book spine. So I'm going to start by just adding a bit of color to the spines of the book. I'm not coloring in the whole thing. I'm just adding just a bit of color. And then we'll do some boho blue. Now I like to start with my dark and kind of color where there would be shadows, and then add in my light and blend. I find that's what works best for me, but there's no right or wrong way. I encourage you to kind of play around and see what works best for you. What gives you the look that you want. It really is just all about trial and error and playing around, experimenting. The more you do, the more comfortable you'll be and the more you'll like your images. Okay, so now I'm adding in some light, and I am going to leave a little bit of white as a little highlight. Okay, so we're done with boho blue. Now I'm going to do some copper clay. Just repeat that process. Just adding a bit of dark at the top and the bottom of these books, and then I'll add in some dark here. Any guesses on what kind of colors we'll see in this year's in color release? I'm pretty sure that Strawberry Slush is coming back, because a product that we can pre-order as demonstrators that will be released in Tuesday's online exclusive release to customers has Strawberry Slush in it. So I'm thinking that that color will come back. So I'm thinking that there will be maybe more bright, vibrant colors, because Strawberry Slush was kind of a bright, vibrant color. All right, so we're done with copper clay. Now we'll use some Pebbled Path. I'd love to hear what your favorite way to color is. What's your go-to? Do you like to watercolor? Do you like to use the Stampin' blends? Do you like to use watercolor pencils? Do you like to use your blender pen and ink pads or water painters? What is your preferred coloring method? I've recently rediscovered watercolor pencils, so I've been having some fun with those. Not that I've been watercoloring with them, I've just basically been coloring with them. I haven't experimented with the whole blending, adding water, or using my water painter yet, but they will come. All right, and then we'll do the last one with some Wild Wheat, which was not one of my favorite colors when it first came out. I did not like this color, but it has grown on me. Okay, and then we'll finish it off with a little bit of light Wild Wheat. All right, okay, and then once those are colored in, they need to be fussy cut, because like I said, those are complementary dies that go with this, whereas they're not coordinating dies, so these do need to be fussy cut. So I've gone ahead and done that, so you don't need to watch me do that. And we are going to take this piece, we're going to angle cut this, And we're going to curl it a little bit. Okay, and then we'll take a dimensional, put a dimensional here. We're going to add a couple on here as well. All right. And I've got a bow that I've tied using some linen thread. And we'll use a mini glue dot to adhere this. So I just want to get my positioning here. So this is going to go on kind of like this. So I want my bow to kind of be in the center here. I'll put it at an angle. And then we can adhere this piece. And let's just make sure we got this right. Okay, so I'm just being mindful that this doesn't stick off of the edge of the card because we want to make sure it fits inside the envelope. And then put this on here like that. And then we're going to finish this off using these new dimensionals. So these are not dimensionals, embellishments. These are called neutral matte dots. I wanted something in black. I wanted a pop of black on here. So these are going to be released with the new online exclusive items. They're part of a larger collection that will be released on Tuesday, March 4th, I believe is when they'll be released. Whatever the date is on Tuesday. All right, and then I wanted to turn this into a birthday card. So there are no real birthday, like happy birthday greetings in this stamp set, and definitely none in this one. So I looked in my stash and I found keeping tabs. So I'm going to use this happy birthday. And it's a little bit smaller, so I wanted to combine it with, I thought I'd put a stack of books in there on the inside as well. So this is going to go here, and then I'll stamp the happy birthday. We can pull in those colors that we used on the outside of our card. We can pull those inside and our book theme. Stamp happy birthday. And then add our books. And isn't that a cute little birthday card for a book lover? So cute. All right. Okay, moving on here. Let me get rid of these. Set them aside and we'll pull out the next batch of supplies that we're using. Okay. Next up, I wanted to do a shaker card, but when I was looking through my stash, I actually didn't have any window sheets left, so I added those to my list and had to get a little bit creative. So I have some of these flip-flaps, which are also from the scrapbooking brochure. They come in a few different sizes. We have 3x3, we have 4x4, 3x4, and 4x6. And these are meant, they're intended to be used for scrapbooking, to add extra embellishments or photos. You can stick them on the outside of your page protector or on your actual layout, and you can tuck extra photos or whatever inside and then make it kind of interactive. So it gives you additional space. But I've been having fun coming up with additional ideas on using them for card making projects. So here is one of them. You can use them to create like a little shaker card. So let me share what I've got done here. So I've got one of our 3x3 flip-flaps, and I have linked all of the supplies in the description below. So if you're looking for any of these supplies. And then I've taken a piece of bubble bath cardstock and I've embossed it. Well, first I die cut it. So these are the pieces that came out. And I believe it was the second smallest hexagon. So I die cut that. This piece we're not going to end up using, but we are going to end up using this piece. Okay, so I die cut it from the center of this bubble bath layer, and then I embossed it using the exposed brick, which is the same embossing folder that I used on the last project. And this is going to be what is holding our shaker elements. So I chose these color combinations because they match with the itty bitty bouquet mix or bokeh mix from the January to April mini catalog. These are part of the butterfly collection, and I've die cut some of these little flowers. So these little flowers come in this die set as well. If you're using different hexagon dies, just look for any kind of small flower dies or punches that you have. And we are going to, let me think about this here for a minute. We're going to stick this in here. So we're putting, actually I think I want to do it the other way. Okay, we're going to do it this way. So this is the adhesive. This is where the adhesive is. So I'll peel that back and stick it. I want to make sure that that sticks to the back of this card. So I'm going to put it this way. Just pop that open, and I can tuck all my shaker elements in here. So I'm going to put these little flowers in here. And then I'm going to take some of my sequins and dump that in there. And let's add just a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to cover this over so I don't spill it. All right, so now we've got our shaker content. I'm going to peel this back. I'm going to flip my card over, and I'm going to stick this down on here. And I need to shake this. I want to see the edge. So this just fits. It's just the right size. So it just fits on here. All right, so we're going to put that on there. Now this is still open here, and we should probably stick this down. So I'm going to bring in some tear and tape and use some tear and tape to stick this down. I do want to be careful. Like if I were to put tear and tape right over this seam right here, you'd be able to see it on the other side, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to kind of follow this shape, my window, and put it like that. Remember, there's adhesive here, so it's stuck down there, but I do want to stick some down over here. So this is the only area where it's open. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this back because we don't want our shaker content to fall out. And I'm going to take another little piece of tear and tape and put it across this way, just to make that opening just a little bit smaller. So I'm not going right over the seam, but it'll be pretty snug, so we won't have to worry about it. Okay, now let's bring this in, and we're going to stick this down on here. Did I peel all the tear and tape? I guess I need to peel this side off. Okay, and then we'll stick it in the center. Now I will have all of the measurements for all of these pieces in the blog post that will go up this afternoon, which once it goes live, I'll add a link into the description of this video. All right. So now I've created a fun little shaker content. Now this is just a little bit wider than what I would like. So I'm gonna go off camera just for a second and just trim that. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay. So I'm noticing that these are buckling just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a couple mini glue dots and just kind of use my paper piercing tool and just poke them underneath there to hold those down. You could add more tear and tape to the back. All right, so there's that. And then we are going to add that to our card front. So on my initial sample, if you remember at the very beginning of this video, I shared a little peek at the projects that we're gonna make. I did my initial card with a bubble bath pink, or bubble bath card base, but it felt like a bit too much pink. So this one I'm gonna put on a white card base. And actually, I'm gonna do it this way. All right. So put that right in the center. And then this piece is gonna go on here. I love the contrast of having part of it embossed and part of it just solid cardstock. So we did that on the last one as well, except our middle layer was embossed and the outer layer was not embossed, whereas this time we've got the frame that is embossed and then this piece is not. So this is going to slide right in here. And so that is going to cover over that little bit of an opening that we could see before. Okay, and that's going to need to set because we put it on plastic. And it looks like all my flowers are kind of stacked together. I don't know if that might have to be the way they are. I'm not sure if I'll be able to separate those. Okay, all right, so now we're gonna do some stamping. So for this card, I chose, again, remember we're using a bunch of different stamps. So this video is really intended to show you how you can use your Hexagon dies. And actually they don't even have to be Hexagon. You could use them, you could do these same cards using hearts or circles or squares, any shape basically. So I'm gonna use this stamp set, Attention Shoppers. There are coordinating dies with this. So there's coordinating dies that will cut out these images, and then there's a fun little shopping cart die, which is super cute. So we're gonna use the flowers and the gift bag. We're gonna use those two stamps. Because we're coloring in with blends again, I am going to stamp with Memento. Flower bouquet. And then we're going to use the word, we're going to make this a thank you card. So I'm just going to stamp thanks on this little scrap. Okay. And then we're going to color it in. So I'm going to use dark gray granite to color in the packaging for our flowers. So I'm just going in between each of the flowers here, coloring it in with dark. And then I'll add some shading kind of right underneath the flowers, here and here. And I'll fill it in with some light, so just fill that in. And when I color with my light, I usually go over the dark because that will blend those two colors, or two shades. And then for the flowers, I'm going to take some light berry burst. So that's the color, the bright pink that I've used. Just going to add just a little bit on each one of these petals. Bring this up a little closer so you can see. So just a little bit like that, and then I'm going to fill in the rest with some dark bubble bath, which is the lighter pink that I've used. So I'm going over that berry burst and filling in the rest of each one of these petals. And then for the gift bag, I'm not going to bother coloring the gift bag. I did the gift bag in berry burst, just like I did all the other images, added my dark first and then filled in with light. And then I did the tissue paper in gray granite. So I stuck with the same colors. Oops. All right, and then we can use the coordinating dies to die cut those. So there they are there. And we're going to bring in our paper trimmer just to trim this greeting down just a little bit. Okay, and the last thing that we need before we finish assembling is I'm just going to take a little bit of white baker's twine and tie a bow. Oh, it's very twisty. Let's see. All right. Just tweak this a little bit. Okay, now we've got all our pieces. We can go ahead and finish assembling. I'm going to angle cut this. And just like we did on the last one, I'm going to use a combination of dimensionals and flat adhesive. I'll put a dimensional in the raised part, and then this guy's going to go on flat. That going like that, and then we'll add a little bit of flat adhesive. This is going to get tucked underneath here. And then this is going to go on using dimensionals. And we'll use a little dot of multi-purpose glue right here to add our baker's twine. And there we go, there's our card. Now I don't think I added anything on the inside. No, I didn't add anything on the inside, but you could stamp another one of these images or maybe another image. Let's see if we can get. Okay, when you do this, make sure your flowers don't stack like those, because those are, they don't seem to, they'll move, but they won't unstack. Let's see. Nope. So we've got basically one big thick flower right there, and then some sequins. So, all right, so there is card number 2. So we've got this one and this one so far. And now I wanted to show you how you can turn your hexagons into a little gift box. So let me slide this aside and bring in, where are the rest of my supplies here? Oh, here they are. Okay, so I am using, I think the DSP is called Wildly Flowering. So this is from the annual catalog, and this DSP is, it has all of the current in colors in it. So we know that it's going to retire. So I am trying to use up some of the stuff that will be retiring, and it's actually a really pretty paper. I actually didn't expect to like it as much as I did, or do. Okay, so the things that I have here, I've chosen one of the patterns and I die cut 4 hexagons. So I have 2 of the largest ones and 2 of the second largest ones. Okay, and then I've got a piece of coordinating cardstock, and this measures 5 inches by 6 1/4. Okay, and we're going to bring in our paper trimmer, and we are going to score. So I'm going to use move my cutting blade out of the way, and we're going to score at 2 inches all the way around. Now this was actually, the way this turned out, this was a happy accident. So whenever I'm making any kind of boxes, I usually start by cutting it from a piece of scrap paper. So I thought, okay, let's do like I want it 1 inch thick, and let's do a 1 inch, like 1 inch top, right? So the depth would be 1 inch. Or the height, I guess, would be 1 inch. Or 1 inch. And it was too small because the hexagon is quite large. So I thought, okay, let's do 2 inches. Let's try it with 2 inches. And my initial thought was just to do just a rectangular box. But I will share what happened when I did that. And I love how it turned out. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in some longer bladed scissors. And now what I'm gonna do is, so this is the 1-inch strip going across this way. I'm gonna take my scissors and just cut a little bit of a V up to this score line. So I'm cutting on either side of that score line. Okay, so it'll look like that. And you want to do that on opposite sides. So, and I created this based on, I have a video, which I can go back and add a link to that video afterwards, where I share how to make boxes. And I basically took that same idea that I shared. So I figured I wanted 1 inch deep, and then I figured out how high I wanted it and did it based on that. And then that's how I created my box. So my first idea, let's use my bone folder here. We'll make these all nice and crisp. I'll pull these. It looks like it's awfully big, but it'll all work out, trust me. Do that, and then we'll do this one and this one. Okay, so my first thought was I am just going to kind of do this and this and this, or the other way. Actually, this, it doesn't really matter. So my first thought was just to do something like this, right? So it would look like that. But as I was assembling, look at this. Okay, we're gonna start by adhering this center flap. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is check the direction of our paper, and this is going the right way. So I'm going to flip it over. This is going to be the inside, and I'm going to attach this flap to the center, the bottom center of this piece. So, and I love using liquid glue for this because it allows you to reposition it. So I've got that on there. So like I said, my first impression was I was just going to create a box like this, but you can actually create it like this so that it kind of follows the shape of the hexagon. So now what I'm going to do is add adhesive to one of these sides. Okay, so I've got my adhesive on there, and I'm going to follow the shape. So this time you're not going to line it up right with the edge. You've got maybe a 1/16 of an inch gap there, just because this doesn't quite go right to the edge of that hexagon shape. Okay, and then we're going to do this one. And we're going to repeat that on this side. So just positioning it so that we've got that little bit of a gap there. And then we're going to just repeat that on this side. So again, I'll just make sure that I don't think this one matters so much. We'll do it this way. So I'm going to do this center flap first. And then we're going to line this up. Okay, so I'm just making sure that it's in the center here, and then we'll do this one. And then we're going to do this one. Now this last one, it is a little tricky to get your adhesive in here, but it gives you enough, it's flexible enough that you can get it in there. And our multi-purpose glue is really good adhesive. So now you can see that that kind of follows the shape of the hexagon that we're making. All right, so now inside, this is what it looks like. You can leave it like that, but I wanted to kind of pretty up those, I didn't want to see those flaps in there, so that's why I cut these smaller pieces. And I'm just going to add adhesive, and we'll just have a little bit of that moody mauve from the inside, from the back side of the pattern showing. So then it'll be pretty on the inside and the outside. And we'll do that over here as well. So I'm just lining it up so that I have an even border on these 3 sides. And there we go, there's our box. So now we need to make it pretty. So what I've done is I've cut some more hexagons here. So this one is cut using the second smallest, and then I embossed it using the exposed brick, so the same embossing folder that I've been using all along. And that is going to get adhered to the center of our box so that we have a nice even border. So I just took one of the colors from the DSP, which is Early Espresso, and I'm just going to add that on there. And then I've got this wonky circle. So this is from the Around It All dies. This is another online exclusive item. I love these wonky circles. They're so fun. But if you don't have those, you can use any shape. You can use a label shape. You can use a regular circle. And we're going to stamp our greeting on here. And I am going to use the Just For You from the Attention Shoppers dies. And I'm going to stamp it in Early Espresso ink. And yeah, okay. Just kind of right in the center. And then I'm going to bring some Wild Wheat ink in and my blending brush. And I just want to add a little bit of ink around the edges. So I'm just lightly adding just a hint of Wild Wheat around the edges of my circle. And then I've gone ahead and I've cut, this is the 3rd smallest hexagon, because I want to create a little tag that I can slide in. Let me share here. So I can slide it in and write a message to whoever this is going to. Okay, so I'm going to go around the edges on this piece as well. And I thought it would be fun to create a little tag that was the same shape as our box. Okay, all right, we can put this away. All of our stamping is done. I've also die cut some more of these flowers from the hexagon dies from the Meant to Be. So I cut one of each of the 3 sizes of flowers, and we're going to add that to our card or our box. But I've taken some Moody Mauve. This is our, what is this called? Jute twine. It comes in all 5 of the in colors. So I chose the Moody Mauve because that's what color I cut my flowers from, and there is a little bit of Moody Mauve in here, so I chose that as my accent color. And we are going to kind of tie a big bow. You can also do like a figure 8 and loop it around. And when I stick this on, I like to use seal adhesive, so I'll just put a little bit of a seal adhesive on the back and figure out which way my words are going. I'm going to go this way, I think. Yep. So now it kind of looks like a figure 8, but it's just easier to just tie a big bow and make your loops really big. And then we'll add some dimensionals to the back of this. And then this is going to go on here. Like that. Then we'll add our flowers. And I'm going to use a mini glue dot for these. Do the big one on there first. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. For those of you who missed the beginning of the video, we are working with the Hexagon dies, or the meant to be dies, these dies. So I'm sharing 3 different ways to use those fun dies that are in the scrapbooking brochure. Okay, now I've got some iridescent pearls, and I'm just going to take some of these and add them to the center of our flowers. They do have a hole in the middle, so when you use a mini glue dot, you can see them. And it's always nice to add a little embellishment. And there is our box. Now our tag, I'm going to use just a 1/8 inch handheld punch to punch a hole. And I've got some Moody Mauve ribbon. Now this ribbon is retired. I had it left over from, it was last year when these in colors, the 23-25 in colors were released. They came out with ribbon to match. And I happen to have a little bit left. But you could use any color. You could use, if you've got early espresso, if you've got wild wheat, even just white ribbon would work. Or the black and white gingham would be really pretty, I think, with this as well. So I'm just cinching it together with some white twine. And then I've got a little tag to go in my box. And then let me share what I included in there. Let me grab my pieces here. Okay, so I just cut a little bit of tissue paper, and I've got some Bath and Body Works lotion or hand cream. I've got a little tea bag, and then kind of some motivational stickers that I'm going to include in here. So you can do this a couple ways. I think what I did for mine was I added this in here like this, carefully pop this down there, and then I tucked these pieces in like that. And you kind of have to fuss with the tissue paper a little bit. There, that's not too bad. So just like that. If you want to cover, like I did add another little scrap of tissue paper in the top so you couldn't see what was inside. And then your tag can just slide in the front so that you can write a little message on there. And isn't that cute? So fun. I love that we can get creative and create little boxes and bags and tags and all sorts of things with our supplies that are meant to be used for card making. So fun. So there we go. There are 3 different ways to use our Hexagon dies. So I hope that inspires you guys to get crafty with your layering dies. Like I said, you don't have to use hexagons. Maybe you've got squares or rectangles or hearts or diamonds, circles. You could pretty much use anything. The box, you might have to get a bit creative creating with the box depending on the shape. But yeah, I hope that this video inspires you. Just a reminder that all of the supplies are linked below, so if you have any questions about that, and I will go back and link the blog post once it's live. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. Take care.